Welcome to San Diego Integral, September 13th, 2025. Our topic today, Seven Facets of Awakened Wholeness, presented by Tucker Walsh and Scott Merriam.
Welcome everyone to San Diego Integral. I'm Kathy Andrews and I'm a member of San Diego Integral's leadership team. We've got two other people from the leadership team today here, Eloy Mays and Jerry Golick. Our guest speakers today are Scott Merriam and Tucker Walsh, and the topic will be Seven Facets of Awakened Wholeness, which is only the distillation of more than 25 years of working with transformational leadership and adult development through the generating transformational change. We will begin today's presentation shortly, but we have a few announcements. The formal presentation portion of today's meeting will go for 2 hours until 6 p.m. Pacific time. After the formal presentation, we will keep the room open for another 30 to 60 minutes for social time, for further exploration, questions, and informal discussion. And you're welcome to stay on for that. You can stay connected to San Diego Integral on Meetup and Facebook. Please join one of these groups. That way you'll automatically be notified when a new event is added. You can also contact the leadership team through Meetup or Facebook, or if you ever have comments or questions about these events, or would like to be part of our leadership team, we're always open to new great help and assistance in generating what tomorrow will be. There is more information about San Diego Integral on our website at sandiegointegral.org. Our regular meetings are held the second Saturday of each month at 4 p.m. Pacific time. Finally, we invite you to make a small donation for today to help cover meetup fees, web hosting, etc. You can make a donation at our website, sandiegointegral.org. All right, at this point, I'm going to turn the meeting over to Jerry to introduce our two speakers.
Okay, it is my privilege to welcome my friends Tucker Walsh and Scott Merriam to San Diego Integral. Tucker is an Emmy award-winning documentary film director whose vision and talent are to create powerful story transmissions at the intersection of personal development, collective evolution, and planetary awakening. And he's currently collaborating with Pacific Integral on a 10-part film series illuminating Geoff Fitch and Abigail Lynam's Seven Facets of Awakened Wholeness, which is our topic for today. And Tucker is also joining the team as story weaver for John and Nicole Churchill's Planetary Dharma, transmitting their core teachings into a multifaceted, first of its kind media mandala. In addition to his film work, Tucker has organized and facilitated over 20 meta-modern gatherings across the globe, helping birth and illuminate collective potentials for the leading edge of consciousness. And he's currently based in Boulder, Colorado. Scott Merriam is a strategist and coach supporting emerging visionaries, creatives, and leaders in clarifying and enacting their unique vision for a more beautiful world. His approach uniquely combines more than 15 years of contemplative practice with over a decade of expertise in design and brand strategy. Drawing from training in the Hakomi method, developmental coaching, and depth psychology, Scott has developed a reflective and emergent approach to bringing vision into reality. His work bridges contemplative spirituality with the practical skills of visual design and strategic communication, supporting those ready to let their visions take tangible form. And he's based in Victoria, British Columbia, where he lives with his family. So I met both Tucker and Scott in Pacific Integral Generating Transformative Change program, the GTC program, which is a 9-month transformative journey into awakened wholeness through intimate community. And both Tucker and Scott now serve as faculty for the GTC program. So I've had the privilege of experiencing each of them as participants in the program and also as leaders in the Pacific Integral community. And one thing I would say that strikes me about that is the way in which each of them, in their own unique ways, they brought like inspiration and leadership into the program as participants. And then, as in the last few years, as I've seen the leadership roles, they're bringing this beautiful humility into the role, and they're always open to their own learning and growth, and that's a real inspiration for me. So I'm really looking forward to the presentation today. And with that, I'll turn the meeting over to Tucker and Scott.
Thanks, Jerry.
Thank you so much, Jerry. That was so beautiful to be introduced by you. Yeah, I'm just going to go back and see the full group because there's a lot of folks here that have participated in some of Pacific Integral's offerings. And so as much as possible, I'd love to make this we'd love to make this a collaborative conversation and dialogue. We have some slides prepared, but Chris and Kabir and Mamie and John and everyone else who's been a part of the program. At any point, if you feel like there's a story or an insight or an experience that you've had in the program, feel free to raise your hand and we'd love to get your voices in. So I'm going to share some slides. Can everyone see this? Great. Yeah, so Scott and I are really excited, and I feel actually a little bit, it's that fine line between excitement and nervousness because I feel so much care for these teachings, for all the lineages, the ancient lineages, the new lineages that have woven together to create this and still ongoingly creating this really beautiful wholeness that Geoff, Fitch, and Abigail Lynam, who I consider my teachers and mentors, but also my friends, have developed over 25 years of working with over 1,000 participants that have come through the different Pacific Integral offerings. So everything that we're going to be describing here is really born from relationships in real life that have become practice ground for our human expression, for consciousness's potential. And we're holding it all with, Jerry mentioned humility. We really want to bring a sense of mystery, of not knowing, of openness and curiosity. It's an ever unfolding, ongoing exploration that we're a part of, and all of you are helping to create that. It's a living co-creation. So yeah, Pacific Integral, they're based in Seattle, and a lot of the programs happen on Whidbey Island, which is just absolutely gorgeous. You'll see in the film in a minute from now. But there's also been offerings in Africa and Australia, New Zealand. We're looking to Europe next as well. So this is really a global organization. Our flagship program is Generating Transformative Change. It's a 9-month cohort-based transformational unfolding in a journey, a collective and individual journey. And we'll be talking more about that. We also offer emergent leadership as an online, shorter online program, and emergent facilitation, which is for those that have gone through GTC and want to learn sort of the methodology and the practices of how to hold the types of containers that we do in GTC. So yesterday, we released the film out into the world. I have a background in filmmaking, and so it was really just a really actually special moment in my personal life to be able to integrate the work that I've been doing in the past 5-6 years around facilitating and collective gatherings and working with, integral theory and metamodernism, and really weaving that with my past life as a documentary film director. And so I'm going to play this first film. It's 4 minutes long, and yeah, I take it in as a meditation, as a transmission of the essence, the vibe of what we're up to here. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen and reshare a different screen. Perfect. Okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
here we go. Action!
Remember, all we're doing is loving each other. That's all this is about. At a deeper level, we're just really here to care for each other and to care for the world. We're in a time of chaos right now. We're in a time between worlds. It's so important now that we cultivate a moral ambition towards a better future.
There's something in us that knows that we're on our way to a world of greater goodness, and we can actually trust that and move towards it. The true home is just right here, right now. We can relax and welcome and include ourselves exactly as we are.
Transformational passages do involve a kind of process of emptiness or dissolution. What this journey asks of us is to drop out of the mind into a more creative, liminal space.
In this developmental unfolding, there's no endpoint. There's a mystery to who we are. Some of the ways that we've been wounded by life actually become the source of that gift that we want to bring into the world. Sometimes it can feel like the finest little spark, but if we really have the heart, the soul, and the listening, we can grow that spark into a raging fire.
The path of awakening is the path of freedom. It's our birthright. Awakened awareness is like the sun, it's always shining. It just sometimes becomes obscured by clouds. It's right here, right now.
We already know this, it's actually who we are. It's so deeply close.
Embodiment is about coming into incarnation. In order to fully be here, you have to really acknowledge the truth of who you are, of what you're here to do. We can say yes to this life.
What a gift to have this body, to be able to walk on the earth, to be able to be in relationship, and to be an expression of awareness living itself through human form.
The real relationship is about becoming a community of practice. It's about committing to engage in each other's unfolding.
Which is also having the commitment to lean towards one another when things get difficult, which they inevitably do. By being truthful with one another with love is the very thing that helps people move into a deeper ground of trust and a deeper ground of freedom with each other.
There's a degree of integration and healing that we've just discovered only happens in the we, in the tribe.
It's the very force that can support us to soften and deepen and trust life itself and its unfolding.
This work is really about walking each other home. It's coming home to this wholeness, our deeper nature, our healing, to the feeling of home in our bodies. And it's doing it with each other. We don't do it alone, we do it together. And so it's all about love, baby.
All right. Yeah, we'll share a link to the film and the website after if you'd like to watch it again or share it with anyone. Yeah, just before I turn it over to Scott, I just want to honor Geoff and Abigail, who, yeah, words fall short, so I had to make a whole film just to say thank you to all that they've done for me and for so many people all over the world. And it's really cool today to be posting the video in different groups, and including this group, and to be getting feedback from people that don't know Geoff and Abigail or Pacific Integral or even integral theory at all, and are really moved by the offerings. So, Scott, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, great. Yeah, I mean, I think the thing that I'm sort of struck with in the moment is, rewatching the film and we're going to be exploring what this sort of model is, the Seven Facets of Awakened Wholeness today. And what strikes me is that this isn't this is a model. It's a map of 7 different territories, but it's not. It's something that came out of it came out of the work. It came out of practice and learning. It wasn't a predetermined kind of intellectual model necessarily. It was really something that emerged and became revealed through, not only through through Geoff and Abigail and the other contributors who have made GTC a program, but largely through so many people, so many participants coming and bringing themselves to the work. So this is a model. It's a map, and there are 7 facets to this model: awakening, integration, complexity, capacity, embodiment, soul expression, intimacy and relationship, and the collective. And it's these are interconnected, interpenetrating territories of both human flourishing and also human potential. And we really engage them as doorways, as an ecology of practice, as access points into the wholeness that's already here. And of course, like with any model, it's an empty construct. We hold it in the mystery and the unfolding, and with a great deal of curiosity and wonderment. So it's really an evolving thing. Go on to the next slide. And as I mentioned, this comes from over 25 years of exploration, largely through Pacific Integral's GTC program. And Pacific Integral being an integrally informed organization, there's ways which we'll explore where this map of wholeness correlates and relates to integral theory. And we have really seen through the work how collective work and relationship are deeply central to transformation. And and we're holding this really as a living inquiry. It's really not a fixed kind of top-down model, but an evolving map emerging from the very real world territory that we engage in the program.
So this is beautiful, Christine. And something that Geoff and Abigail really emphasize is when we meet a human being, to just meet them fresh, to drop the maps and the models and the distinctions and the categories and the labels, and just be with the boundless beauty of their being, of being itself. And of course, those distinctions can arise as ways to create more intimacy, more depth, more connection, or more celebration of our uniqueness. But to hold it lightly and to hold it with a felt sense of its empty nature, and to just really come into contact with the beauty and the intimacy that's always already right here, right now. So, yeah, just some more general points on the model before we dive into each facet. Yeah, again, really emphasizing that Pacific Integral is holding this from a place of our awakened wholeness is already here. In a sense, it's our true essence. It's the very nature of our existence. And we can go on all sorts of journeys to clarify and refine our relationship with that wholeness, but that in a sense we're already home. And yeah, in a way we could call this kind of a turquoise perspective in using integral language. So each facet is a part, there's one unfolding whole, and different facets can arise as expressions of uniqueness from and as that wholeness. And they're really there again to bring a medicinal quality, to bring a sense of deepening relationship with some aspect of life, of ourselves and of each other. And so all of these different 7 dimensions are all interpenetrating, as the graphic shows. You know, these aren't these clear, linear, distinct boxes. There's porous boundaries between all of them, and each of the expressions are enfolding and informing and arising one another. They're co-creating each other in a sense. And we'll talk about that more. So there's no inherent hierarchy necessarily, or there's no linear progression. It's one whole, and there's different facets, and really the prioritization that comes is contextual to what one is going through, what a collective is going through, what's happening right now, right here in the moment. And each of these facets are holonic in a sense. They're an entire world. They're an entire many worlds within worlds. There's, you know, endless practices and teachers and lineages and potential growth and evolutionary, you know, unfolding that from a certain view, we're just beginning to tap into each of these dimensions. And the idea is to, like, one thing that I really appreciate about Pacific Integral and GTC particularly is that while we talk about some of this stuff, and there is a, you know, a bit of a philosophical kind of framework in which we're holding some of this work, it's really in service of bringing it both off, you know, off the cushion in a sense, but also off the book in a sense, and into real relationship, into contact with our actual lives, our actual circumstances. So we bring our life into this work. It's not something to necessarily, you know, like leave or transcend. It's all held as part of this larger whole. So yeah, some folks might be thinking, you know, because this is an integral crowd, that there's some similarities with wake up and clean up and grow up and show up, and certainly there are. And yeah, every model has its uniqueness and its contrast. And some of the ways that the 7 Facets model, you know, approaches things a little bit differently is that, again, each of these are interpenetrating. And so they are not just different developmental lines that we work on in their distinction, but they're also co-enacting one another. So for example, when we do our individual shadow work, that might bring us deeper into intimacy and relationship with another. And then that unfolds more of a sense of a larger collective. And then that collective can have a sense of a shared purpose that also informs each individual's purpose. So they're all co-enacting one another. And really, one of the ways that Pacific Integral, I think, shines is holding that this developmental unfolding is both an individual and a collective process, and that those two are, again, interpenetrating and interreflecting. They're interdependent. And so really this is about embodying the work, embodying our capacities and our potential, our care and our love in relationship, and in a sense in our bodies, in our beings. And by bodies, I don't just mean our physical bodies, but I also mean the body of our planet, the body of our soul's expression, our choosing to be here in these times, in this culture, in this moment. And so this is really about bringing all of the learnings and the teachings into reality. Scott, I'll hand it over to you.
Yes. So what we want to do is like just walk through and just give you a kind of impressionistic sense of each of these facets, like diving into each one to give a bit of a taste. And the first one is awakening. And this is the dimension of our true nature, the wide open, timeless, boundless, non-dual, centerless beingness. It's what we truly are. And awakening to this dimension of being is possible, and it's there's also a sense that it's our birthright to know and be as this wide open, awakened awareness that embraces everything. And like the
haven't did nothing at no Walmart. I haven't set up no gift bag. I don't have PR. My PR done did that. I don't have PR. I don't know who did that. They played with those people.
It's a perfect time to continue the practice. Sorry, let me go back.
It's good. Yeah. And so one of the ways that this we'll touch on like a kind of like way in which this shows up in the program and in particularly in GTC, you know, like a practice. And there's a practice that we do where we go out on the land in pairs, and one person of the pair is blindfolded, and we bring that blindfolded person to different places on the land, and invite them to lift the blindfold and see freshly what's in front of them. It could be like a flower, or it could be, you know, like a view of the landscape, to see the mirror of life shining back, and the sense of that being fresh. Yeah.
Yeah, I think just one other aspect about how we hold awakening is that awakening is really in service to continuing to deepen our capacity and care to show up in the world and make an impact, and make a difference. So while there's aspects of awakening, the awakening journey, you could say, that might involve, you know, going inwards and retreating, which is part of the GTC experience. There's also a way in which that is held in the larger intention of care and bringing that back out into the world to make an impact. So I just wanted to say briefly, just to set up what we're doing, I didn't mention that at the start. We're just going to walk briefly through the 7 facets and give a little bit more context and detail. Then we're going to have time for a Q&A, and after that, we're going to move into a little bit of a practice and in breakout rooms, and then we'll come back for a larger group discussion and harvest. And again, if while we're going through these facets, if anybody on the call who's participated in the program feels like they have a story or a moment that feels like it would really beautifully illuminate how this facet was expressed in your experience or continues to be today, please feel free to raise your hand. We'd love to have your voices. So complexity, capacity. So this is the idea that we never stop growing. There's a developmental unfolding that doesn't stop when we graduate high school or graduate from college, and then we're just an adult. You know, I'm sure everyone here knows this very well through integral theory. We often reference and use and are deeply inspired by the stages model developed by Terry O'Fallon, who actually is one of the co-founders of Pacific Integral. And so stages has 1st through 6th person perspectives, which is basically expanding. It's different depths and capacities and perspectives that we're able to take. And again, the way that we hold that is not just for our own individual development, because that's somehow better, but because it actually allows us to expand and widen our identities of care, the wholeness that we experience ourselves as, and ultimately the responsibility that we hold for how we can make an impact in this world. So complexity, capacity, the way that we hold it is, it's not just a conceptual, it's not just a mental thing. It's a very much an embodied, somatic and energetic, and even an intuitive kind of gnosis type of knowing. In many traditions, they say the mind is in the heart, and we really hold that to be true. That the mind is in a sense everything, and it's also the whole body. It's the whole being that is part of the complexity that can develop and unfold. We also hold development and complexity and capacity more like a symphony. So we're not just at one stage. We're not just teal or we're turquoise or green or whatever it is. We're really all the notes simultaneously, and different contexts, different relationship, different moments can bring out different developmental expressions. And again, all those expressions are part of this inherent, innate wholeness. And they're all part of the larger evolution and development of the cosmos itself. So one practice that we do at GTC is we put masking tape across the entire room, and we create 4 quadrants. And we'll take a polarity like unity and diversity, and then we'll have a light and a dark. So there's 4 quadrants, and people will move around the room and actually feel in their full body, their full being, what it's like to be that polarity. What is it like to be the dark unity or the light unity? And when we move through different quadrants, you kind of can feel your actual experience shifting in real time, and then we harvest as a group and we share insights, and that also brings a collective attunement and awareness to what's happening.
So integration is about a compassionate embrace. It's about welcoming what we have pushed away. And this is like cleaning up in a sense, or is related to shadow work, but it's really about encountering and welcoming the whole of ourselves and each other. And it's recognizing that the mind has this capacity to exile and separate us from parts of our experience and from others. And there's a turn towards a kind of healing with love and care and curiosity. And we hold this in a sense as natural, like in the sense that it's not a problem, like that it's even the mind's tendency to exile and separate is not a problem, but there's a wholeness that's possible when we turn toward to welcome what has been separated. So part of this is held in a community, and the way in which community can actually give us the courage to face ourselves and to face what we have disowned. And one of the practices that we do later in this 9-month program is what we call the projection exercise, where we as a cohort share quite openly the projections that we might be holding of each other as projections, not as judgments, but as a way of coming to recover what we have disowned, or what we might be placing on another inside of this kind of intimate collective that has been developed in the program. Yeah, Chris, do you want to add something?
Yeah, this slide just took me back to something in my GTC experience that was very profound. And I remember Abigail in the first retreat saying that they wanted us to bring all of our parts and all of ourselves. And that was pretty scary for me. And by the end of the journey, I realized that GTC was the only community I'm in, other than my marriage, where I can bring all of my parts. And it was pretty profound.
It's beautiful. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah. Yeah, it's such a key part of the work is this this embrace with what is.
Okay, embodiment. Yeah, embodiment, it's one of these words that gets thrown around a lot, and certainly in my social groups. And I really love how Geoff and Abigail and all of us, I think, are holding embodiment, which is there's an aspect of our physical body, but it's also, it's just saying yes to life, like saying yes to actually being here in this incarnation, if you want to take a soul view on it. Saying yes to these times, this crazy, chaotic time between worlds that we're in. There's an aspect of showing up. This is really showing up for life. And in order to do that, we need to work through the blocks in our bodies, the blocks in our energy body. So there's an aspect of karma liberation, of healing, of integration. But ultimately, it's also opening up to pleasure, to the aliveness, to the life force, to the eros that moves through us, and that eros informs our, soul expression and our desire for relationship and intimacy. And so again, we can bring that, we can have it come through us and be expressed as us out into the world. And part of embodiment that we hold is also like really feeling deeply held by the earth, even by the universe, by the cosmos, feeling that we're not separate from nature, but fully 100% a part of nature and nature itself. And that we can really deepen into a sense of knowing, a sense of knowing that is a non-conceptual knowing, or it's informed by other aspects than just our cognition. And so, yeah, we use core energetics as one of the lineage streams of embodiment, and sometimes we'll start shaking and jumping up and down, or dancing and laughing, and all sorts of just being in our animal bodies, being animals. It's such an important aspect of life. And I know for me, I spend like most of my day on a computer, on a screen. And so it's particularly in our modern times, this is such a important aspect of our human wholeness. Swimming in the ocean.
Yeah, this is the dimension of vulnerability, of being open and being seen, and seeing one another truly. And in the GTC program in particular, we are inside of relatively small cohorts that unfold over 9 months together through 4 retreats, and the the relationships over that period of time deepen with people who largely come into the program being strangers. And at one point in my first GTC experience, I was sitting in the room. I think it might have been the third of 4 retreats, and I was kind of looking around the room at my fellow cohort members and feeling internally the same kind of stirring care that I feel in my marriage. And I got up and I said something like, "Wait a second, this is about real relationship. I didn't sign up for this. I didn't think that this was what we were up to." And it's a real dimension of this work is actually that we acknowledge that we need each other, and the process of becoming a community of practice and really committing to each other's unfolding. And yeah, this is about leaning into each other when things get difficult, and integrating each of our unique perspectives and also our unique essence into the larger whole. And the truth is, we're never not in relationship. So we're just bringing this dimension out more fully as a centerpiece of what makes transformation possible. And one of the practices that we engage to support this is a truthfulness practice, which is really about coming into a kind of more embodied, deeper relationship with a truth in our lives that we might be otherwise avoiding. And it's a beautiful practice for just acknowledging in a simple and embodied way what is, which often leads to a kind of release, even when it can be painful.
One aspect of, when we're never not in relationship, we're not just speaking about subtle interpersonal relationships, really like the body, just the concrete physical body is always in contact with something. I'm in my chair, can hear the rain, can feel my own heart. So there's that level. And then there's also the level of the dimension of awareness itself. Like our causal body is in relationship with the flourishing, vast, seemingly like just the uniqueness of all that is. Of every blade of grass and every drop of rain has its own essence and its own being that we can relate to, not just as Tucker, but also as relationship itself, as awareness itself. And so collective, yeah. And again, I just want to emphasize that while we have a facet that's called collective, all of these facets can be seen as like a collective can go through all of these different facets. A collective can go through its own group awakening, or it can have its own unique soul expression, as can each individual. So here, we separate collective from intimacy and relationship because, especially in our modern Western context, a lot of us are quite alienated from a sense of tribe, of real deep belonging to a core, a core group of humans that for many cultures and contexts throughout history have had as their sort of their birthright. And so this facet can bring up a lot of grief and a lot of longing for a world in which we can deeply belong to a group of beings and really rest, like really allow ourselves to fully rest into the safety, into the holding, into the attunement and care, into the showing up for each other. And what we found is that some healing, just like some wounds are created in collective context, there's also some healing that's only possible in the collective context, in the we. And ultimately, this is about becoming a community of practice, of life practice, you could say. Chris just sent out a few minutes ago an invitation to her birthday, and within minutes, she had like 3 or 4 people that literally were buying plane tickets and sending screenshots to come to her birthday in San Francisco. And that's not just showing up for a birthday party. That's committing to being in relationship and to being a collective that shows up for each other when it matters. And when it doesn't matter as well, when it's just fun. Life is also about having fun. And so all of that, we hold collectives as like these little, a way that we can hold them as these little petri dishes or these art projects or these prototypes for ways that we can be as a human collective in the future. Like, how can we practice showing up from these second tier perspectives, you could say, or these different ways of being that aren't broadly experienced in the world that we have in this moment? And how can we be in a collective that can really commit to creating new ways of being together? So yeah, an example of this is we did a fishbowl. We talked about gender, male and female dynamics, and a fishbowl is when you have some chairs in the middle and then an outer ring, and people get up and the people in the middle can talk and the people on the outer ring can listen. And there was all this sense of these, intergenerational and ancestral and very, specific to this moment in time, healing and insights and awarenesses that were coming through the collective body of the GTC cohort. And so all the broader collectives are also living within each cohort as well. It's not about the world out there. It's really the world is showing up through us and as us as well. Kabir, I'll spotlight you.
Hey, yeah, I just felt like I would pipe up on this one just because I came into the work with Pacific Integral, almost 20 years ago. And I came in through a collective. I came in through pre-existing relationships to Terry and a few others. And just in this room here, I could name 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, maybe 8 or 9 different tribal collectives that I'm a part of that have really come largely through the evolution that I found through the work with GTC and Pacific Integral in this community. And it's become these communities. And in really meaningful ways, I wouldn't be here today without this community. I'd be in a very much lesser place in the world. And so I just wanted to acknowledge like how much richness is not just like join a tribe. There's like, when we learn to look through that lens, it's like the world becomes so much fuller. Anyway, yeah, just a word on that.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Mm. Yeah, this next facet, soul expression. This is the dimension of the impulse to serve, the impulse to express, and it's not just an individual impulse. We hold it as a kind of evolutionary impulse, and even a kind of ecological one. The way in which our unique gifts are here for each other and for the world. And yeah, there's something unique we're here to be in this life. And so often it's the case that our wounds, where we were, where we faced difficulty, that becomes the very source of the gift and the contribution that we're here to bring. And yeah, this is about the longing to serve and be of benefit, and it's the most natural thing in the world to receive a gift of some kind and then to want to offer it back out. It's like such a natural movement. It's such a natural impulse. The moment you awaken to something, the very next move is to want to offer it. Yeah, and we also hold this, that purpose isn't something that is necessarily constricting. It's a kind of given that you come to come into relationship with, or come to know, or come to deepen into. So there's a way in which a kind of willfulness gives way to a willingness to show up and be used, or to have life move through you and as you. So there's a kind of movement toward aligning with the evolutionary impulse. And also this is about saying no to what is not ours to do, which in a way has sort of like echoes of the embodiment facet. And one of the practices that we engage to support this process is a kind of presencing practice, which is adapted from Theory U, which is a model of change that supports participants to sense into what wants to emerge and giving that voice and form just as it's emerging, just as it's beginning to crystallize, which is a supportive practice that helps counter the impulse to want to plan and strategize and figure it all out from the start, but instead to be in a kind of living relationship with the future as it's emerging.
Okay, we're gonna move into a Q&A. Maybe that wonder if we can go back to, if we can remove the spotlights and go back to just the full group so it can be together as a whole. We know that was a lot, and so yeah, we just want to open it up and just hear what's stirring in folks, and pushback or seeing things differently is totally welcomed as well.
I can raise my hand to get a discussion started. That like one thing that's been influencing me recently sort of is that phrase, like, be the change you want to see in the world, which means sort of transform yourself and then be that, rather than doing anything you can expect anything else in the world to change. And I'm not saying it's a disagreement, but it's sort of a tension there between people saying, well, I'm just going to work on myself kind of thing, versus and then I can't make anybody else change, to be really positional about it. But I don't think it's really meant that way. But versus saying, yeah, it's also very much interpenetrative in collective, in relationships is where we're pushed, and then we can't help but be changing other people. If we're quiet about what we would like to see in somebody else, then how could anybody have an idea how things are really affecting us? So I don't know, like talk a little bit more about how GTC and this model is really being how integral like coming forward, and so that we're bringing forward and having an effect.
When are you raising your hand?
I don't know how to,
Oh,
my,
that's okay.
so this is when I'm raising my hand. I love what Kathy said about, be the change that you want to see, but also I would like to embody in that what you brought up, which is say no to what you are not. Because that can also be very creative because it can, well, and I love how we are sharing as a group, being curious about what the other people's perspective. So you get to look at both angles, but also to be able to have the courage to say, that's not for me, or perhaps maybe you can see some value in it, but da 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 da, whatever your angle happens to be.
Beautiful. I love that. Let's maybe just keep getting a few voices in, and then maybe Scott and myself and others can respond when we're. Yeah, Eli, do you want to?
Yeah, just from a outside perspective, like the first person I ran into that's been through GTC was Kabir, and like, whoa, what kind of person is this? And then I've had the experience of seeing my friend Jerry go through GTC and see the impact that it has on him and that he has on me and others. And it's both subtle and profound. It's like they're not. It doesn't seem like huge changes, but all the elements result in a huge change.
It's beautiful. Marjorie.
Hello, everybody. Yeah, I had put a question into the chat. This was early on because the film to me was a little bit reminiscent of, I can remember being in consciousness raising groups in the 60s and, flower power children and all of that we did back then. And it had that sort of same feel to it to me in a certain way. So I'm just curious about what makes this movement integral as opposed to postmodern, as opposed to the green that we pretty much did back in the 60s.
Yeah, it's a great question. I want to take Karen's question, and then maybe I'm feeling that there's some threads that I can weave all together. And Scott, you can help me out, and others as well. Karen, thank you for the great questions, everyone.
Yes, thank you, Tucker and Scott. All along, I have known that something called Pacific Integral existed. I knew nothing else about it. And now my curiosity is satisfied. What I am resonating with this very powerfully is one of the facets of this multifaceted gem, this living gem that you're presenting for me, is the sense of what wants to emerge, feeling intuitively what wants to emerge in polarity with setting a program. We need to be efficient during the day. I have my to-do list and I cross things off. But as an introverted intuitive, all along, I felt kind of alone because I tend to sit and say, what wants to emerge? I love fertile chaoses. And what I've learned to ask is what wants to emerge instead of imposing from the outside my structure, trying to feel innately what innate structure would like to emerge out of this. And so this struck me. I'm so delighted that you've got a group that does this as part of a larger integrated program. And the other part of this that is, it's not even that I feel validated because I love what I do, but the creative vision and what's resonating with me is it's like an incubator for what can emerge. And this is my passion, that we are in an era of cataclysmic change. And I'm a cultural historian. I've got charts and graphs and so on about how humanity has been through phases like this 6 times before. Always we have eventually, after a period of great turmoil, emerged into an era of greater complexity, of evolution, and this is a pattern actually that goes back to the Big Bang. This is how evolution happens. The next emergence of greater complexity happens through periods of turbulence, and this is true of the physiosphere, the biosphere. It's, I could do whole TED Talks on it. But the passion, the more visionary passion that fuels me is that we can have a glorious future on this planet. We will eventually. Evolution is not yet done with us. And there's so much gloom and doom, rightfully so, given what's screaming at us in our headlines. So groups like Pacific Integral and this program that nurtures the emergence and a positive vision of a beautiful future. I'm in this. I'm all in. I'm with it. I'm doing this, my corner of the integral universe. But I just want to shout out and say, yay, I'm so glad you're doing what you're doing. Thank you. And that's what I was resonating with in this presentation.
Thank you, Karen. It's beautiful. Yeah, it was really well said. And yeah, it's just to weave a little bit here. I think we can all agree that the world that we're in right now is not the one that we hope our children and grandchildren, great-grandchildren will grow up in, that there's aspects of life right now that are profoundly unwell. There's a lot of division and separation and chaos, and that includes inside of us and in the collectives that we're a part of, and certainly on a planetary level, even on an ecological level. And so the question is, how do we want to get to where we want to go, and how do we even know where we want to go? And a way in which I've experienced in my own time with these teachings is that, like, the best way in some way to get there is to be there right here, right now with each other. And that includes bringing in our longings and our grief and our felt sense of feeling fractured or separate. And if we can bring that into relationship with each other, there's like a strength of the bonds that come together that allow for a relaxing, it's paradoxical, it allows for a relaxing, resting into a deeper holding, a deeper ground. And that deeper ground is a field of relationship. It's like an interconnected web that is holding all of us. And there's whispers that come sometimes as a thunderbolt and sometimes as an actual whisper or a dream. But there's little like insights and murmurations of what's possible, of our potential. And when we can listen for that and feel that and move towards it, there's the felt sense of evolution itself occurring in real time. It's like it's happening now. Evolution isn't like a philosophical concept about something that's happening in like a history book somewhere. It's like an actual process that is driven by love and care and is churning this unfolding that is developmental. But it's more than developmental. It's not just developmental as some model describes it. It's actually changing reality itself moment by moment and inviting us into a deeper sense of connection with all of life. And when a collective can do that together, it allows for individuals to go into their pain, into the suffering, into the sense of separation, because again, there's actual physical body of beings that are right there in person, in the flesh, holding each other through that journey. And to me, that makes evolution, our evolutionary potential, you could say, our developmental potential, stronger. Like there's a strength in relationship that is possible. Yeah, I'm going to turn it over to Mamie because she's someone that I feel stronger around.
I just want to give voice to the whisper that's moving through me around like relationship being a force that like really activates like the latent virtuous character of awakened wholeness and of healing wholeness in a way that I've experienced that so strongly, like throughout GTC, like this sort of this latent blueprint of virtuous character that is ready to spontaneously spring forth to be that strength of a collective that holds us in the inclusion, the deep inclusion of like all the debris, all the fragmentation, all of that. It was and continues to be so striking that it's in relationship that that potential and the character of like the function of healing wholeness. There may be an emptiness of awakened awareness, but there's also just this latent virtuous character that just feels so ready to like burst forth throughout, through each of us and into all the collectives as the holding that we need.
Thank you, Mamie.
Yeah, beautifully articulated, Mamie.
Allison.
Yeah, it was really beautiful to go through this presentation having just finished GTC, and like it almost felt like it caused me to just like reflect on the journey that I had just been on and just think like I remember when I did that exercise and just like how those pieces sort of move together into a whole experience. And there was a moment at the end of the cohort. It was like our last day, second to last day, something like that. And just like on a concrete level, like there was an altercation between two people, and the facilitators, just helped the cohort eventually stand on their own. And so we were sort of on our own at that point. And it was probably one of the most like beautiful experiences that I had in a cohort where someone went into reactivity, had awareness that they were in reactivity, which in and of itself was so impressive to me that like someone would be able to like in the moment notice where they were at, and they were able to like leave the room to take care of themselves and like ground themselves. And then the way that the cohort was able to like just absorb everything that had happened, and like the love that was in the room and the compassion and the interest in the individual but also the cohort was it's hard to put words to, but there was a feeling there that just sort of caused me to reflect like, wow, this is probably one of the most like special like cohorts that I've ever been in my life, and there's something really like sacred here going on. And then also like caused me to reflect, what does bringing this into every cohort that I exist in look like, and having a lot of curiosity about, like, what does it mean to like bring whatever this feeling is, like out and into the world, you know, and I kind of appreciate you guys breaking it down into the sort of 7 different ways of looking at it. And, you know, I think there's something that is very meaningful to me about that.
Thank you, Allison.
Yeah, I'll just say there's just sort of weaving together some of these pieces and responding in a way to what you're sharing, Allison, is like there's a way in which you know, GTC in particular is a program, and we hold that as a kind of construction. Like it's a program. It has a beginning and an end, and it has these kind of like learning objectives in it. And on another level, like it's the very enactment that you're speaking about that happened in your cohort is not something that it's not like a separate nice thing that happened in some training program somewhere. It's like it's actually we're actually living the very evolution that we're speaking about, and it's happening inside of this construction that we're calling this program GTC. But in a way, the construction exists as a structure to support this evolutionary emergence, and it's something that we hold in a way as facilitators, both the sacredness of the container and the program, but also the emptiness in it. Very often Geoff will say, and as he did in the beginning of the video, you know, we're just here to love each other, you know, and on some deep level, this is about caring for one another. And there's a way in which that's true at the level of the program, but it's true at the level of, I would say at the level of humanity in a way.
Yeah. Shara, hi, good to see you.
Hey, good to see you all. You know, this is bringing to mind something that I don't quite have language for, so I'm just going to try. I'm new to the area, so I'm exploring. So I went to the Broad last weekend, which is the Modern Museum, and then I went across the street to the Contemporary Museum. And, you know, the Modern Museum with the Basquiat's and even some surrealism and Andy Warhol and stuff. It had a voice, it had a coherence to it, right? And then I went over to the Contemporary Museum with, you know, art installations and floating roofs and a string of lights and otherworldly huge felt figures, and there was like no coherence, and I could almost feel in me this yearning for yesteryear, like, oh, I want the voice and the coherent narrative of the moderns. But, you know, in the contemporary disparateness, there's also a coherence, but it's like so new. It takes, like, I'm sure that's how people felt of the surrealists when they started painting. And I felt in the Contemporary Museum like wanting the comfort of regression. It's kind of interesting. I felt this compassion. And it strikes me that when we are playing and leaning into emergence, we need a collective to hold the dysregulation that's almost inevitable as a first response, since we have no witness, we have no reference point, you know, so that we can actually bring forward a new story.
Yeah, it's beautiful, Tara. It's like, yeah, it's really appreciating that. what it speaks to me in a way is it's like the disorientation and the possibility of leaning toward each other in the midst of that, and what's possible when we're sort of not knowing together. Well, what I'd like to do now is just invite us into a shift, and we want to we'll move shortly into some smaller groups just to dive into this a little bit deeper. But there's we've been speaking about this model, and the next invitation is for you to consider, like, if you were to take this as a kind of map of your own experience and think about the different facets that we've been speaking about, where do you feel like the most expressed on a scale of 1 to 10, among these facets? Or do you feel the most expressed and developed across these 7 facets? And which facets do you find are you're naturally gravitating toward, and which feel the most familiar? And where do you sense there's areas for growth or territory where you might not have a lot of experience, or even some reservation or challenge? So just taking a few moments just to, either with pen and paper or self-reflecting, or in a notes app on your computer, just taking a few minutes just to reflect on these questions, where you feel most expressed and where you might feel growth edges with respect to these different facets. So we'll just take a few minutes, and then we'll shortly be moving into smaller breakout groups.
Another way to frame this inquiry is like imagining that world that you long for yourself, and or maybe your children, or humanity as a whole to live in. And in order to play our role in unfolding and evolving into that potential, what are the facets or the areas that we've been exploring on the call so far that might be asking for your attention, or to deepen into relationship with, in order to be the change you want to see in the world? And if you feel complete with that, another thing you can do is to think of a collective you're a part of, maybe San Diego Integral, or another collective that is close to your heart, and you could look at these different facets through the collective experience. how can the collective grow and evolve in these different dimensions of wholeness? Okay, we're gonna stop the screen share here. We're gonna move into breakout rooms for maybe 15 minutes, the groups of 4. And the invitation is just to explore what came up in the journaling and really to recognize that in these breakout rooms, we're in a collective. You know, the breakout room itself is a collective. It includes intimacy and relationship. And to like begin to kind of share about what's coming through us through this journaling and really like speaking it into the relational field and allowing that to be held and shared and related to. And maybe also to take the lens of how does that relational field itself actually attune and help uncover and unfold and evolve new insights that might not have been possible just on our own in our silent time journaling to ourselves. So just split up the time evenly amongst yourselves, and or you know let it be a free flowing conversation, and we'll come back in 15 minutes and have some time to harvest as a full group. Are there any questions? Okay.
Yeah, I've got the rooms made up and we'll see you back in about 15 minutes.
Breakout sessions are not recorded.
Welcome back, everyone. All right. Well, we have some time to just, yeah, open it up and be in our full collective, and yeah, an opportunity just to share like a harvest of sorts, what emerged in your breakouts, what's alive right now in the moment. And yeah, this could also be one thing that we do often at GTC is we recognize the potency of a collective field, and we can invite in a prayer or a longing or a commitment for ourselves or for how we're going to show up in the world, and to just have that be kind of held in a larger whole. And so that's another invitation as well, if that feels right. Yeah.
I can start. Yeah, it was really nice. I feel like I got a lovely resource. Elisa was talking about being in GTC like 20 years ago, and there's something about the word GTC, Pacific Integral, in this group that when it's spoken seems to bring forward a coherence, like something remains. And, you know, I was kind of alive with what I was sharing before break, that perhaps there's a symbiotic necessity to have a holding space in order to transform. Like they might actually almost be dependent on each other, like a deep interdependence. But, you know, that's hard because sometimes it's not there. Sometimes that container isn't there. But what felt true is that like the whisper of the memory of the container that we might have had once might still be a holding that can hold us in our disorientation, as you were saying, Scott, that we can like still move towards it in curiosity, even if we don't have it present in the way we might ideally want or need or like.
It's gorgeous, Shara. Yeah, one of the ways that we can see ourselves as, you know, our sense of Tucker, that's 35, that's, you know, this body is in some sense a construction. It's a view. And another view I could take of myself is of like all of history, like all of existence, all of creation. And to really feel that there's a field that has that latent memory of ancient, deep time. That's not an abstraction. It's something that our bones know. Like our bones know, we know how to breastfeed when we're 1 day old. We know how to breathe. We know how to eat and chew, and we know how to be together. We know how to belong. We know how to do that. It's innate in all of evolution, from all of time, the whole cosmos that are birthing and arising and living out right now. And yeah, we help each other remember in that sense. There's a remembering what is already innately a part of us. It's a bit paradoxical.
One of the things that came up was like for those of us that are not likely to go to GTC anytime soon, are these like teachings and principles that can be applied and brought to other groups? And in our group, there are people who are asking like, what if we had brought these principles to a dance group or a church or any other gatherings?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Scott and I were laughing during the breakout because we were saying that often, like maybe a critique of Pacific Integral is that there's so much just practice and being in the experience that there's sometimes not a lot of like actually talking about what's happening and how it's happening and how is it like the actual methodology of it. And so in a way, this presentation is like, this model just came out a couple months ago. And there's a film series coming out, and Scott just made a new website as well. And so in a way, this is 25 years of like distilling insights about collective practices and ways of being, and then attempting to have it live on beyond the forms of the Pacific Integral as a teaching, as a transmission, and even as a lineage that can be brought into all aspects of our lives. So yeah, if anyone, applies this to other communities and collectives, please report back because we'd be really curious to hear. Hey, Kabir.
Yeah, I just want to piggyback on your glance at Scott there about the website. And I haven't been through it deeply, but I did look closely enough to see that there are a good handful of paragraphs about each of these things. And so I'm just really grateful to Scott and for, you all that have done the work to make that kind of seed space available. So I know that if I go into community with this, I have that little starting place of a reference to pick up those conversations, one page that each person could read, and then now we can sit down and have a conversation about what did we see about that aspect of wholeness. So anyway, just great work, and I just wanted to point to that subtle and slight resource there.
Thanks, Kabir. Karen.
Yes, to the points that were just made. Yes, I see the value of the model and the value of sharing it as a model. And I'm sure it will be very interesting to see what feedback you get. In our breakout group, we spent some time listening to John and drawing John out because he has been through this program multiple times. I forget how many, John, but like more than 3, I think. And one of the things he told us that I am still boggling at is that there is follow-up done afterwards and research. And it was found that taking Terry O'Fallon stages, that people who had been through the complete program tended to advance more than one or even two, like up to three developmental stages. This is personality development. This is a really big deal. I'm still kind of quietly boggling here. This is profoundly transformative. And you don't go back down afterwards. This isn't one of those, as somebody meant something earlier. Yes, does it last 2 weeks? No, this is once we've gone up a personality structure stage, we can use the previous ones, but this is like a permanent evolutionary change. I'm wowed, just wowed.
There's there's several papers that Geoff and Abigail and other faculty members have written and contributed to over the years to sort of give color to that particular aspect, the kind of research base of the program. I'll see if I can find one and drop it in for those that might be interested.
Yes, please. I would be very interested if you can find a link for us.
Yeah.
Or just a reminder that if you don't find it in the next little while, you can post it on the meetup page as a member of the group in the future.
Oops.
I'm curious if anyone, through this presentation, if there's one of the facets or a specific aspect of your life that's feeling like it's calling for some care, some attention, and if there's any insight around how that process might unfold. Hey, Larry, good to see you.
Hi. For me, intimacy came out on a real low end. And so I'm inspired and anxious to develop that aspect of real life relationships at a deeper level that are sustainable and that I can build my network of love at this stage of my life. But the issue that came up for me in doing it was that it's I want to grow in my lines of development, but I've got a lot of blindness towards how to be in intimacy. So that's the space I find myself in. And I'm at the beginning of that road right now from this course here.
That's beautiful, Larry. Yeah, even just you bringing that in, that's part of that process that's already happening. And Marjorie, you asked a really good question, and I sort of, as I sometimes do, got sidetracked, and but something that Larry's speaking to is like, part of how we hold being a community of practice is in order to help each other develop and unfold. And so we're not just in it for the kumbaya circles around the campfire, although we do those. And there is a lot of green aspects to GTC. That's part of the wholeness of the whole developmental stack. And if we skip that or pretend that that's not real, then we're going to be anemic in some ways that we could be showing up in life. But at the same time, collectives and relationships and intimacy bring out our growth edges. They bring out our blind spots. They bring out our shadow. And when we can commit to staying in relationship with each other and helping each other to navigate that, then there's a natural unfolding of development that is often like more catalyzing than it would be alone, but it also just can be more fun and more interesting and more lively. And, you know, like we're here, God, on some level, God created all this uniqueness in order for it to relate to each other. And so, yeah, we can kind of recognize the beauty of that and play together in that evolutionary potential. Jerry, I'm curious what's happening for you, having 2 feet in both San Diego Integral and Pacific Integral.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just enjoying it as other people have mentioned. It's just like there's a part of it where was it Shar said when the word GTC is mentioned, like there's sort of a, you know, something happens in the field, and that seems to be true to me. And I guess just one of the things that was going through my awareness as we were talking is that there's something I heard about years ago. And it was about how when you're studying something, it's like as you go kind of like, and this model is a good example. If you go around the circle, like you study each of those things, when you come back to the starting point, you're closer to the middle. So you keep going around and so like when you learn something about intimacy, you also learn something a little bit about integration. You learn a little bit about, you know, awakening, you know, like, so it's a, you know, we move through all of these different areas doing kind of deep dives. And then as we get back, you know, like then we'll move on to some other exploration. But the I don't know, the reality of it for me is that it just seems like really effective, as other people have mentioned. Like it's a this particular model and the work that they've done for me has been, um, you know, a real important, meaningful, transformational part of my life. Unlike, you know, I mean, like the most, or one of, you know, we can all, you know, we can always, it's hard to say compared to family or something, but I mean, it's just, it's a really powerful um, set of practices that have evolved over, again, quarter of a century or so here, and really powerful and moving. So that's kind of where I'm at.
Not to interrupt too much, we'll just pause for a second and note that we're at the end of our official time together as San Diego Integral, which goes from 4 to 6 Pacific time. So I really want to thank each of you for joining us and being part of this collective field, and especially to our presenters for presenting it so wholeheartedly and bringing all 7 aspects of that petaled flower to us all. And so they popped in, you can see www.pacificintegral.com. I don't know whether you want to say something about when the next cohort starts or how to find out about that. And then we can go to our informal social hour, which I believe Scott said he would not be able to stay, but then Tucker would be able to stay for that. So we're shifting into that, and we will keep everybody informed about what our October speaker will be. But Tucker, if you wanted to say a little bit more about the next cohort.
Yeah, so and I popped in our email addresses in here as well in case in case anybody wants to just be in touch. We totally welcome that and would love that. And yeah, there's been lots of talk about GTC because it's the source of this model, and the next cohort is forming to begin in late October. So you can learn more about that at the link that Tucker just posted. And let's see, we're enrolling until I think mid-October, October 15th or so. So there's still time.
And there's still scholarships available, a few scholarships. And yeah, again, I just want to emphasize that we're talking a lot about this program and Pacific Integral, and also these are dimensions of awakened wholeness that are far beyond one program and one offering. And yeah, just to bring these into your life. And yeah, our deep prayer is that I hope it serves. I hope it helps create the world that we're all longing to be a part of. Yeah.
Thanks for having us, everyone. It's been really lovely.
Now we chat.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what happens?
I've got dinner to make for a 5-year-old, so I'm gonna bow out.
All right, thank you, Scott.
Thanks,
Okay,
Chad.
much love to everyone.
I'm just feeling so hopeful that the amount to which we bring any of the 7 aspects to our lives, it evolves us and evolves somehow, allows space for evolving, maybe in the places we are. It sort of gives reasons to not to intend to make things complex, but to acknowledge complexity, to lean in and be intimate, that it like we're evolution in action. And I'm not going to think anything about this is going to solve problems. It's going to make more problems before it solves them, but just it feels like it moves things forward, and I feel like that's something I'm really interested in. So it sort of feels more permission granted, because it's like naming them. Okay, it's like, okay, lean forward with all those things, because somehow it's not easy to do, but if I'm whatever's pulling me to make things better, so
Yeah.
it just ends up with me feeling excited.
And to have a container in which change, it's safe to open ourselves. So that it's kind of like a chrysalis. So the caterpillar can turn into mush, so that it can turn into a butterfly. And that this is really happening in community regularly in predictable ways with a technique. This is, I mean, this is huge. This is like, I have an intuition that we are moving forward into a very beautiful future. But we've got this messy, turbulent period to traverse. And so to just have a vision that there is a positive future for us, that we will, of course, grow into. Evolution is not done with us, is one of the things I say. But to see a container in which this is really happening, and that collectively holds a positive vision of the future and of our potential to become our next stage of evolution of ourselves. This is like, wow, this is beautiful and wonderful, and I'm dancing inside, and it's just plugging it right back into my own creative, my own visionary fiction. I'm finding it a powerful affirmation for myself personally, and also just a celebration that there is a community that is helping co-create this, because it is a collective field. It's and we're feeling it. This is wow, wow, wow. I feel like dancing.
Yeah, and you're a part of it now, Karen.
Oh yeah.
You always were, but now you're even more so, and that's one of the cool things about GTC is, every form has is limited in some way. There's a temporality and ephemerality. And so the program is 9 months, but really GTC lives as an experience that it's like it's there. It's like you're born anew. I can't say that's true of every single person, but I would say the vast majority of people I think could really feel that sense of like you're born into a larger whole through the GTC initiation. There's like a threshold that's crossed, and then it lives with you for the rest of your life, hopefully. And that means that where the boundary between when a container ends and when the rest of life begins is really just it's like a sandcastle at best.
See, Tucker, you were at Embodied Integral last year, weren't you? Yeah. That one presentation by Bobby Azarian, he showed a graph that was on, I think, forgetting the name. And somebody had charted uh, the major emergences of new complexity since the Big Bang. And every next emergence happened an order of magnitude sooner. It was a logarithmic line. And we are at the stage, these emergences now happen in human society. And they are happening faster and faster. And I've charted this in human society as a cultural historian. But at this point, what I see Pacific Integral doing, this program doing, is that some participants are actually moving up multiple developmental stages, because the evolution of the next emergent order of complexity on Earth is going to be happening within human lifetimes now, right?
Yeah.
Within single human lifetimes. I'm a boomer, and I'm one of with the boomers, we were among the first who are experiencing too, with the emergence of post-modernity. That was the next new emergent order of complexity with all its technology. And now we're moving into the next one, the second tier. And that's for the first time ever, that next emergence of complexity has happened within a human lifetime. And it's just this is a pattern going back to the Big Bang, the rate it's going to keep accelerating. So people like Tucker, you guys are going to you're going to be evolving faster and faster. And I kind of know this intellectually, but I didn't see how, what would that mean to even be a human being like that? But with programs like this, it becomes a celebration rather than a daunting challenge.
Yeah. Yeah, I just want to, Terry O'Fallon gave a presentation. I can't remember where the presentation was. It was so good. It was about time. I think it was with Keith Martin Smith on Integral Life, actually. And it was about time, and it was just about how those these later developmental levels, 4.5, which is like teal or turquoise, like they're all coming online more or less simultaneously, like from a big picture historical perspective. But and this is important, that also means that we're quite skimpy in all of these. We're newborn babies in all of these developmental expressions, and so it's important to be humble. It's important to and also to really work on like a healthy green. We barely have healthy green in this world. And so if we're so busy focusing on our turquoise evolved higher selves, then we're going to be anemic, and it's going to come out through shadow and through and just through facets of wholeness that are unexpressed in this life. And that can be a loss. So both and.
So I wanted to ask a question about the complexity aspect, and if you're seeing greater challenge in the complexity area over I don't know, some of you have been with GTC longer than others, but I would, like for myself, I would say complexity seems way more challenging now than it did for me 10 years ago. 10 years ago, I would have said, I love complexity, bring it on. Now I'm like, wow, I don't know.
Are you saying that there's more, is there more of a felt sense of being called towards the simplicity that's on the other side of that complexity? Or?
What we're going to try to do today is look at the
I just feel more challenged by it than I would have a while ago, and I'm just wondering how that, are the cohorts feeling that, or it's just all part of the matrix, and it just becomes a smaller thing than it would be on its own, I guess.
I must say, I don't worry about that so much. I leave that to youngsters like Tucker and Shara. That's their problem.
Thanks a lot.
You're welcome. Hand the baton on to you guys.
I'm curious, John, if you have anything to say about what Eli's bringing up.
Well, one of the things that calls to mind is I did my first GTC cohort starting in 2008. And the character of the cohorts, and this is reflecting what Terry was talking about, is it's changed so much. The kind of people that come in a cohort that was 17 years ago, there was one outlier in construct aware, and then the rest of the cohort was half at 3.5 and the other half in fourth person perspective, early and late fourth person. And now the kinds of people that are coming in at a younger age is astonishing. The last cohort I did about 3 years ago, there was a 28-year-old woman, at strategist level, and a good body of people at construct aware. So the program itself, they dearly love having a range of people in the cohort, and it just really prompts people to be in a room with people who are operating at a higher level of complexity. It's just such a gift. But speaking to your comment, Karen, it's happening. It's happening. And the thing that Terry has been working with, she's seen this, is there's a whole community of the community of people who are in construct aware or later is getting younger and younger.
Yes.
I can tell you 17 years ago, that wasn't something that was really, I don't think, envisioned even by Terry and the people who are looking at it. There's something quickening. And part of it is groups like this, and there are others around the world that are nourishing it, have found ways to nourish it. And Karen, what you were saying earlier, it just seemed to be, you've got the drift of what's happening there. You get people in a range of perspectives, and then you bring them into community and intimacy and closeness and vulnerability. And I'm thinking of the comment, I've forgotten his name, about intimacy. There's so much that becomes evident to people in the course of GTC. And then they might be directed to work to be done outside of this. This is a short program, but it's a place where people can get a pretty good idea of the areas in themselves that they need to nourish. And then the kinds of people that often participate, a lot of them are therapists and coaches. So there's a way in which people can leave finding what they can need to do, because you don't want to leave things behind.
But how powerful to be able to walk away from a program like that, for this to be conscious and intentional, and a positive, here's something I can do. Just that right there is so powerful.
Yeah.
One thing I feel remiss that this wasn't shared earlier, but the container is 9 months, the formal container, but a lot of, I wonder if they've studied this, but I would say a majority of cohorts continue to stay connected and in touch for months and years, and a couple even, over a decade now. And so this is it's almost like the birds leave the nest. The nest is the 9-month program, and then the relationships continue, and people become good friends and collaborators, and they show up for each other's weddings and funerals. We've had people that have passed, and it's just been heartbreaking, and it brought all of us together. And so real life continues on, and these relationships are different from a weekend workshop or a 1 week conference, where there can still be friendships that are made, of course, but the depth of traveling through time and space for that period of time creates a level of depth and connection that is harder to let go of after the container ends. And I think that's a real benefit. In our Instagram, immediate satisfaction world. It's doing something different.
Yes, this is the other polarity, and this is something I've been thinking, because the challenge we face now is to have these longer, to have something we can put our attention. That's not the challenge of social media and of such fragmented attention. I see this as the great challenge of our era of turbulence. And this is something I've mapped as my cultural historian at each one of the previous 6 new emergences of complexity in human society. There has been a challenge to, can we self-regulate at the next level? I mean, starting with just the first, can we self-regulate physically? Can we walk? Can we toilet ourselves? Next, can we self-regulate at the level of our impulses? Can we self-regulate our emotional expressions? And you can point to an area of a next level of self-regulation in order to more or less successfully be able to cope in the world at that stage of development. And this is going to continue into second and third tier. And I see this, what I see as facing us now is, can we self-regulate our attention, where we choose to put our attention? Can we be intentional about our attention, because there's so much that's grabbing our attention so powerfully? Those of us, and at every stage there have been people who have, a certain portion of the population has not been able, and but civilization, human society has continued to evolve nonetheless. Like alcohol was one of the big challenges when we moved into agriculture. Hey, we've got enough beer, we can get drunk every night. Well, you know, your community isn't going to last very long if you have a frat party gone bad every week. So there's a certain proportion of the population that cannot self-regulate at the level of their consumption of alcohol, but we have progressed 6 times nonetheless. So I figure we'll make it a 7th time, but this is a challenge. I know it's a challenge for me. You know, how much time I spend just following clickbait on this thing. I'm not meditating nearly as regularly as I used to. I say, wow, I've got to be more intentional and focused about this. So I see this as our collective challenge. And a group like this is like creating the way out, the way forward. The we space that can help us attain this next level of self-regulation. It's going to take we spaces, I think.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you. John Sandoval. I don't know if I'm saying your name. My intentions is going to you. I'm curious what's happening in your world over there.
Yeah, I think I learned of Pacific Integral through SDI, San Diego Integral. Have heard, in person, Eloy and Jerry talking about it. I wasn't able to do GTC, but I did do the Emergent Leadership one, I think. That was just a series of Thursdays. And that was a way for me to kind of get a little tasting menu of Pacific Integral. So I do hope that I'm able to do GTC at some point when kind of the stars align. But especially for now and today, really enjoyed the framework and did the mapping, shared that in the small group. And I think one insight I had was the things I was most expressed and developed on were also the ones that had the greatest gravitational pull, where there was familiarity.
Yeah.
So I think that kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm excited I quickly looked at the webpage, so it's really cool. This is like a main kind of another dish of Pacific Integral. So great work, and I used to work in brand management, so I appreciate the visuals and the look, tone, and feel of the piece and everything. It's really nice, Tucker.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that. Scott designed the visuals of the deck and also the website. It's funny, it's kind of like a family affair. We're all just integrate. Well, that's part of it. As you know, Scott has his past career in web design. He's sort of moving away from that more into coaching and facilitating. And I have a past in filmmaking, but that's kind of part of soul expression, is what are the gifts, the skills that we've cultivated throughout our lives, and how can we integrate them into values aligned, mission aligned, purpose driven work that can have an impact. And sometimes that involves pushing away from our past. And a lot of times at GTC, people are pushing away, but a lot of times people are also integrating back in aspects of themselves that they had left behind previously. And yeah, that kind of real-time integration of a larger whole is really beautiful to witness. And it's been really true from my experience. I wish I could go back to myself 4 years ago when I was a student in the program and say, like, you're going to make the main GTC film in 4 years from now. That would have been a really cool moment. Maybe a part of me knew on some level.
I'm finding it really interesting watching a number of people. I'm thinking right now, Jamie Wheel and some others really kind of helping to push that edge up into strategist level, helping people at third and early fourth person who've pushed away from a religion to find a way to bring sacredness back into their worldview. People doing it in different ways, people working in meta-modern. Graham Dempsey comes to mind.
Yeah.
Some of these people that are working very purposefully to kind of nourish that next edge that our culture can move into in a significant way. There'll always be the leading edge, but it's that next one that's just becoming culturally visible, which needs that little push right now.
Not that there needs to be any pushing away, but there's a portion of me that's saying, but things are moving so negatively. I mean, what it was yesterday that we found out that Charlie Kirk's shooter was from was thinking that from a group that's saying he wasn't right wing enough. So it just, I mean, there's the evidence that John's putting out that that he said of the people finding Pacific Integral are like younger and more advanced, and there's so much like that Karen is talking about, alluded to, that's pushing each of us to being less time for deep thought, less time to be in other states of consciousness. Like, it's not like which one's going to be win out, but it right now, like, maybe just to say something coherent, but it seems so much bigger right now. Everything that's moving us like loudly, vocally, that being a right winger is the right thing to do. And so many, and it presidential speeches are more towards a 9th grade reading level, like it's just going down versus
what we're going through is immense. It's immense. It's a period of great turbulence, and this is my analytical work, and I'll just try to be concise here, but the next emergent order of complexity emerges in the midst of great turmoil as old structures break down. In the physiosphere, physical, there's a phase change, like phase changes, like when water goes from a block of ice to liquid. There's a period of great turbulence, just physically and energy. In biology, there's punctuated equilibrium. In human societies, the next new era tends to emerge. There tend to be dark ages separating them because old structures break down as new structures first emerge, old structures start to break down. And I'm trying not to get too what tends to drive the emergence of the next order in human societies, in my analysis, is the emergence of a whole new mode of a technical form of communication. First language, then writing, then printing, then electronics, telephone, etc., and then the computer, and then the internet and social media. Old structures break down under the onslaught of these new communication modes. Periods, the next, so the and so in history, the next order of complexity tends to emerge through a period of that we call dark ages in our history. We're going through a dark age now. Fortunately, in my analysis, these periods get shorter and shorter. Just as the time to the next new emergence gets shorter, so the dark ages get shorter and shorter. So I'm hoping we won't have to live through this for too much longer. But this is immense, because now I'm going to Ken Wilber here. This is not just a next new order. This is a whole new tier. This is this is like doubly intense or triply intense. But I'm hoping it will be fairly short. And groups like this is. I'm so elated to hear this. I didn't know anything about Pacific Integral or generating transformational change, but it's precisely incubators like this that are bringing the coherence of the next structures into existence out of the chaos. So don't despair. This is the message we need. This is why my passion is giving us visions. Beautiful. Let's tell some beautiful stories about what's possible about our future. Because give us visions of hope, like Star Trek did back, in the day when we all thought we were going to die from, radiation poisoning, the Cold War. A vision of a positive future that and something to aim for. And these structures that are starting to cohere, like Pacific Integral, this is exactly what the world needs. It's the right medicine. Ooh.
And there are some really good new Star Trek episodes I've been watching one at a time. I love those. And you were talking about phase changes. I just had this image. I'm just sometimes feeling like instead of a phase change in water, I feel like I'm in a beer glass that's one of the black and tans. Only it's 80% of the black.
And only 20% tan. This is intense.
Yeah. And that intensity and that intensity, it's not just like an abstraction that's in some world that's out there. We're living it. We are that intensity. It's right here,
Yes.
That's the same with Pacific Integral. Pacific Integral, what is that? It's a name on a legal document that some tax code has, It's like Pacific Integral is the people. It's the people that show up and are living the change. They're living, they're going through their own disillusionment process, and then they're inviting that in collectively, and the collective goes through its own transformational journey that involves a lot of falling apart and discoherence and all of that. It's not, the pretty photos at the end of everyone at the beach that's one part of the story, but another part of the story is the intensity that's happening and right here, right now. And it's not just like a mirror of the world's intensity. That is the world's intensity. That is our time between these different epochs. Like, it's happening through us right now.
I heard this morning we had I put an invitation to We Wanting group that we have a free practice session, and in the community meeting we had earlier today, one of the leaders shared a new story it was really interesting. That is not a new fable, but it's pretty brief. It says like, instead of once upon a time, it starts right here, right now. There was an old woman working on a weaving in a cave, and she could weave the most beautiful garments. But every now and then she had to leave to go farther back into the cave, where there was a big cauldron full of all the seeds the seeds of everything in the world. And every now and then she needed to leave the beautiful weaving that she was doing to go back and stir the seeds of everything. And so while she was away, one of the times she was away from this beautiful garment the most beautiful garment there had ever been. She needed to go back and stir the seeds, and like a rabid dog came in and tore apart her weaving thread by thread by thread by thread till there was nothing left. And she came back from her stirring the cauldron and saw the threads, and she's paused, and in her imagination came the thought of an even more beautiful garment.
Mm-hmm.
And then she sat down and started weaving that garment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
And I feel like it's not that it needs to be one of the petals or something, but like what Shara knows what I'm saying, seeing problems as opportunities, us starting to practice and being able to live that way. It's a challenge, like a really unlearning and relearning, like what is happening, and then what's the potential, what's a new thing that can happen. I was telling Tucker, I was out in my morning bike ride this morning, and I was thinking, well, I've got a little more time, so I'm going to take this turn and go up the San Diego Creek this way. And I went around this turn, and there was like a blind turn, and there was a guy on one of those really heavy, big, new e-bikes, and he was new at it, and he was in the wrong lane, and we collided. And it was the second time my aluminum bike had been in a collision with an e-bike. So I went in, and it's like, why me? I called Lance, like, come, I've been on this bike ride for 11 minutes. And this guy, to me, like in my projections from this integration section, I'm just projecting everything about I got my hands all black, and like I couldn't even turn the wheels as I was heading towards where Lance could pick me up. But I went in the bike, let's take this in, see what they think about the repair. But when the guy started saying, okay, this has 2 dents, like you can ride it, but it might fail. And he pointed me towards the bikes that were 40% off. And I had this thought that, oh, this is the best thing that ever happened to me. I'm going to get in this great. I don't know this brand, but people have rode it in the Olympics. I can do this. I'll just pick it up Wednesday on my way home from work. Lance had these pain patches. I know I'm going to get black and blue, but this is great. I don't know. I don't know. Like when we're like, I was so embarrassed, like feeling like here I am, I gotta carry this bike, and I'm walking in these shoes, like I don't know, we're in the middle of things. Like how do we get more practice? All I can hope is that there was like I was felt this. I went to the community meeting. I didn't really talk about it, but I went off, and like all we can hope is that the time between thinking this is terrible and this is great is somehow getting shorter.
It's a spiritual practice right there.
But when something happens, like I don't know that I'm coherent enough to say, okay, this is a problem. What's the opportunity? I'm just not seeing it that way, but but in the complexity, there's so many levels of things going on. Anyway, mini story.
Yeah, this is like, to me, this is my dojo metaphor. Life keeps throwing us, and we have no idea what's happening, and it keeps throwing us. But if we keep turning up in the dojo, that partner, we start to see how it's throwing us. Oh, but it still throws us. But if we keep practicing, You know, one day, wait, I sidestepped just in time that she didn't quite throw me. And we just, you know, we keep showing up. We learn by doing, and eventually we get better. And eventually, not only do we not get thrown, but we learn how to lead them where we want them to go. Yeah.
And then it was like the middle of the afternoon when a thought edged in, like, what would have happened if, because we both ended up walking in the same direction to where Lance was going to pick me up and his son was going to pick me up. What if we'd had a conversation about something as we're ended up heading there? But
so maybe next time something like that
right,
happens,
exactly,
you'll be a little,
yeah,
you'll
there's
be
hope that we're
intentional.
learning.
Yeah, you'll be intentional a little sooner in the process. Yeah. Life is a dojo. And we keep showing up, you know, and there's another layer to this that we've referred to occasionally glancingly, but there is the you know, the larger we spaces at the more, we'll call them spiritual levels, that there is a higher intentionality and consciousness that we're always part of. It's always flowing through us. And as we go up the developmental levels, we can become more conscious of it, the conscious we space. There are higher patterns moving through us, moving us. And sometimes they burst through. And our job is, you know, keep showing up. And then sometimes the great openings happen spontaneously out of the clear blue. But if we keep showing up, eventually we grow up and wake up too.
In the 12-step program, they say, I might be butchering the exact words, but the way that I say it is, keep coming back because it works if you work it, and you're worth it, so it's work it. And it's just kind of this sentiment that you're describing, Karen.
Say that again,
Yeah,
the
say
last
that
part
again.
again.
Keep coming back to the meetings because it works if you work it, so it's work it because you're worth it.
Work it because you're worth it.
Yeah, so like doing the
Yeah.
work, you know, doing the 12 steps, keep continuing to show
showing
up.
up.
Yeah, yeah.
And then feel like you're worth it.
Yeah.
Like we like say that
Make
again, because
self-love.
we almost can't hear it. Like convincing ourselves that we're worth it.
I say it really fast. I say it, first I say the serenity prayer. This is before every meal I eat just by myself. I've been doing this for, gosh, 7-8 years now, which is God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference.
Right.
Keep coming back because it works if you work it. So let's work it because you're worth it.
So let's work it because you're worth it. Was that so? Let's work. Was that
So
how it
let's
went?
work it because you're worth
Let's
it.
work
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
The exact. I'm probably.
No.
It's
Okay.
like it's kind of taken on its own mythology in my prayer for 7 years. But the idea is that like keep showing up. You know, keep showing up.
And then we can shift and add a little stanza on the end of like work it because we're, you know, however large the we is worth it.
Yeah, beautiful. Shara, I saw your comment and the I was just curious if you wanted to expand on that or just touch into the territory of what's moving through you and that.
Oh, no, I had talked to Tucker about maybe during this social time. I thought Tom Habib would be here too. Seeing how the working emerging title might of the Icon Conference might, like some insight Tucker might have of it, because we had talked about it hasn't been unveiled yet, I think, the final version, but post tragic might be in there. So like, what are relevant themes for a conference that is daring to bring forward the word post tragic? So I don't particularly think this is the right time, but I just wanted to circle around that with you, Tucker, because
Well, I mean, that's what I was thinking of the word post-tragic when Kathy was sharing her bike story of, you know, there's a way of relating to obstacles in life as opportunities for growth and for deeper intimacy. But I think part of the post-tragic that keeps it from being a spiritual bypass or some sort of false transcendence is that it's also deepening into the grief, into the pain, into the ouch, my body's bruised and my bike is dented, like bummer, and or like whatever that true feeling is, like that like really fully feeling that and being in relationship with that allows for also the holding of the deeper truth of the new opportunity to kind of come through. And so we use theory U a lot in the GTC framework. It's one of the main kind of models that we keep referring. And I don't know if everyone knows theory U, but it's basically like on the top left of the U is letting go. It's surrendering or letting go of that which wants to be released. And by the bottom of the U, it's just you're in this stillness, just in this empty, spacious silence. This not knowing, beginner's mind. And then from there, there's percolations of possibilities and whispers and sensing and feeling. And then that kind of becomes visions. And then that becomes next steps. And then that becomes, like projects or processes that happen on the top side of the U. But the point of that is that the whole journey is part of the wholeness. You can't go from the top of the U and then just like jump to the other one. Maybe there's times when that is possible through, a download or something that comes that really just cuts through. But often there's this process of surrendering into a larger whole, of emptying out, of being humble, of, like asking for guidance, for prayer, for to be held by something larger than ourselves, and then to listen. Then it's really a listening exercise and an embodiment exercise. Because often the listening doesn't come through a direction, a to-do list. It comes through an image or a metaphor or a repeating song or something.
It comes through the liminal space.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
So
like when you
kinda
talk about retexture. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I see all of that as part of the post-tragic orientation.
Yeah. Nice. I love the participatory aspect, and that, with maybe the premise that we are already the wholeness, and there's a faith to that. You'd say it's a cosmology. You could say it's a spirituality. So it's, but should you kind of embrace that, then there's the hope that we are the alchemists of transformation. And there's the that engagement, conscious engagement, even in our unknowing, is being guided by that wholeness and will arrive us at in new space. So it's like like post-tragic is almost a verb. Like how do we participate in the process of something becoming post-tragic? And I think that goes to what you were saying, Kathy, about problems are obstacles. It's actually a skill set. It's actually like a way of perhaps knowing that our sincerity to participate we can metabolize, we can transmute, we can transform, we can become that, and we don't even really need to know what we're doing, but
that's the not knowing.
Need to do it.
That's so magical that's what happens.
Yes, Shara, as you were speaking, I was imagining, I see the learning to what Kathy was talking about, is a skill set that we can learn, that we need to practice. Yet I see ourselves, our human selves, as vessels in which we learn to allow the alchemical process to happen. We don't do it. It is done within us if we allow it, and that's the humility and the not knowing. Now I'm seeing the you of theory you as the cauldron, the vessel, and we are the vessels, and we don't drive it, but we allow it to happen. And then as we allow it to happen, and that's the not knowing aspect. And I know this is pertaining to Eric's comment in the chat too. And then we learn to listen and be able to sense it. And that's what Tucker was speaking about, where the answers start to arise. We don't create them, but we allow them to arise in us as the vessels. But it's these skill sets that Kathy was talking about, like learning to see a challenge or a difficulty as an opportunity and just practicing it until it's an established skill. That's part of the vessel, the container. And then the humility to open to the unknown. This is, oh, look at that. There we go. Tucker just posted that. Is that theory you?
Well, no, I mean, it is and it isn't, but this is through Bill Plotkin's work, who is, one of the main teachers, heroes in my.
And I think kind of, maybe what I want to name a little bit too is suffering, because I also believe life is going somewhere good. And in the breakdown for the breakthrough, a lot of people, including myself, will need to suffer. Yes. And some may need to unnecessarily suffer. And that creates a moral dimension of complexity that but embracing the suffering that life is presenting me, even some of it's not abstract at all, but some of it is issues of where I have privilege and where I don't, and where my kids do and where they don't fluctuate. But sometimes I don't like talking about hope, because we seem to neglect the tremendous suffering that's happening right now.
Yes, the big question. And now what's arising in me is a quote from T.S. Eliot. I said to my soul, be still and wait without hope, for hope would be hope of the wrong thing. Wait without love, for love would be love of the wrong thing. There is yet faith, but the faith and the love and the hope are all in the waiting. And that I see as the bottom of the you in theory you. I'm going by Tucker's description, the just opening to the unknown. In the face of unbearable suffering, even apparently, and still waiting. And I guess the faith and the hope is in the waiting, that there is a larger reason, or a larger, that somehow it will be redeemed. I'm using very traditional language here. We're getting into very deep waters here. But this is my crazy visionary side, not the disciplined academic, but we, with the second tier and on into third tier, we human beings, very few at first, but more and more collectively, will be at a level of collective and individual awareness that we will channel higher and higher transcendent wisdom, because so far evolution of the next order of complexity has been driven largely by suffering. The intensity of an era that has reached its limits and is tearing itself apart with its internal limitations and contradictions gooses the jump to that next level. Otherwise, if everything stays in its comfort zone, it's never going to evolve. Evolution has been once we get to the point where we have nervous systems, we experience suffering. My hope, and this is my crazy vision, I could be totally off, but as we continue to evolve into second and third tier, that the further evolution as it gets faster and faster will be guided more by the higher transcendent wisdom and less by suffering, that we won't need the suffering so much. That's my great hope. I'm not too confident. That may be just a crazy imagining, but that's kind of a light that keeps me enthusiastic about participating. Let me put it that way. I don't often get to share crazy ideas like that. Thank you all. Because my self-expression, that was one of the
self-expression.
Expression. And that I gave myself the highest mark. You folks have given me a chance to express something I don't often get a chance to. Thank you.
Thanks, Karen. Yeah. Yeah, and there's a way in which I really appreciate what you're sharing and just reminding me of the way in which that higher intelligence is also it's the very substance of the suffering, at its core. It's the very heart of that. And to try to make sense of that mentally has ironically created a lot of suffering in my life. But when there's sort of this like more of a gnosis, like the body, like you can just like intuitive knowing of that being true, that being a view that can be true.
Yeah.
That the suffering is grace in disguise.
Yes.
And that grace reveals this deep care and this boundless well of compassion to show up for the suffering in ourselves, in each other, in the planet, in the cosmos, and that it's never ending, but it's always changing at the same time. And somehow that makes sense, even if sounds crazy, like you're saying, Karen.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense to this transcends the intellect. We are being transrational here. The intellect can't. But viscerally, intuitively, we know it. Like you said, we feel it in our bones, in our viscera.
Yeah.
Wow. A grace-filled conversation. Yeah, I'm about ready to check out here too. Wow.
Yeah, folks, seems like we've been going at almost an hour here for the after meeting, and that's usually about the time we call it. At my age, the sitting for 3 hours is about the limit.
That's the wisdom of aging, Jared.
For a number of reasons I won't go into, but
that's another conversation.
That's right.
Different type of development.
There you go. So
blessings.
Thank you, Tucker, and everybody for coming, being here, and hope we'll see you all next month.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Everyone. Thank you, Tucker. Good job.
Bye.
For further information, including upcoming events, resources, links to our Facebook and Meetup pages, and our fabulous donate button, please visit our website at sandiegointegral.org. Donations are greatly appreciated and help us to continue to provide information and connection within the Integral community.